We got a rusty 2002 Chevy Sonoma doing some brakes. Got the tire off, 19 millimeters. We got a snapped lug stud there. And yeah, just doing some brakes. Have your 12 millimeter handy. Get these two bolts on the caliper loose. Then pry that sucker off with a screwdriver. I like to take that metal clip out. The new pads come with a new one. Get a screwdriver in there, kind of compress the caliper. We're not worried about hurting nothing because we're replacing rotors and pads. When we get this guy off of here, bada boom. We got a couple of 15 millimeter bolts in the back, two of them. There we go. So we got to loosen those off and get the bracket off. This side I already got off. All taken apart. Shouldn't let your calipers hang, but these are real light aluminum calipers. I got the caliper pressed in already. I just used a cheap little tool. I got heavy duty tools, but these were not hard to press back in. So just use the cheap tool. You can use this. You can use a C-clamp or big pliers or whatever. Make sure you clean up your caliper bracket real well where the new hardware and pads are gonna sit. So I got it shiny metal. And use some high temp silicone based brake grease for these sliders. Get it all cleaned up. So now we're gonna fit our new rotor and pads on there. Pop that rotor on there. Bracket's all cleaned up. Got our new hardware in place. Squealer tabs at the top. Put a little grease in between the ear of the brake pad so it doesn't seize in there. That's a problem here in Michigan with all the salt and everything. So that was 15 millimeter bolts on the back of there. They're nice and tight. It's time to throw our caliper over it. We had the 12 millimeter bolts. We got our caliper pressed in, of course. A little grease on that caliper too. Helps prevent squeal. High temp silicone based brake grease. We got our 12 millimeter bolts there to tighten up. These are 17 millimeters on the slides. Make sure you clean those out good and grease those. So as you're tightening those 12s, sometimes the 17 spin and you got to put a 17 wrench on it to get them tight. Tighten them down. Throw your wheels, well, tighten them down. And then bleed your brakes, always recommended. These are aluminum calipers with steel bleeders. You can see how nasty that one looks. A lot of times you got to use heat. Got to use heat if they look anything like that. We'll bleed the brakes out and throw the tire back on, prime the pedal. Press it down a bunch of times to get that caliper to seat on the pad so you have brakes when you take off.